So I'm calling to order our public council meeting of Monday, April 20th, and I want to welcome Councillor Mike Cohen, Councillor Andy Schuster, Councillor Oren Sabag, Councillor Lior Azarad, Councillor Sidney Benizri, and Councillor Mitch Kudjavsky, Councillor Stephen Erdley, Councillor Jamie Fabian, and our Director General, Jonathan Schechter, as well as our greffier, Pascalie Tanguay, and our Director of Communications, Daryl Levine. I also want to recognize in the audience former Mayor Robert Libman and former Mayor Mitchell Brownstein to the audience. So, calling to order the meeting, I want to thank you all for coming. We are going to follow up with our first question period, and before we get to the first question period, we're just going to start with an adoption of the agenda, followed by a few recognitions that we're going to follow through for today. So, for the adoption of the agenda, I'll pass it off to Councillor Mike Cohen.
I so move, Mr. Mayor. Agenda as written.
Seconded by Councillor Benizri and moved. And now I'm going to move on to our first, and I think the main reason why a lot of you are here today, and I thank you for coming today. So I'm just going to read a little something regarding the late Bernard Gottlieb. So in 1977, Bernard Gottlieb was a happy 19-year-old living in Côte Saint-Luc with a passion for Scrabble and a life full of promise. After a routine medical test, he received a devastating diagnosis, leukemia. Bernard refused to put his life on hold. He traveled to Israel, pursued studies in tourism management, and founded a Scrabble club that would endure for decades. In 1979, Bernard underwent one of Canada's earliest bone marrow transplants at the Princess Margaret Hospital. His sister Gloria, a perfect match, selflessly donated her marrow, helping Bernard become one of the first Canadians to survive this then experimental procedure. Over the years, Bernard faced hardships, including serious infections, and ultimately the amputation of both legs. Yet he never lost his spirit. Through family, friends, neighbors, and his enduring love of Scrabble and teaching, Bernard built a full and meaningful life, tutoring, mentoring students, and inspiring generations with his courage, kindness, and optimism. Every Wednesday evening, Bernard and his friends gathered in Trudeau Park, Chalet 1, for their weekly Scrabble Club adventures. Bernard founded the club in 1979 and led it until his passing on March 7th, 2025. Bernard gave 46 years of service to the city and to the international Scrabble community. So a man with a passion demonstrated the impact of being part of the community, being involved, and really starting something that is still enduring. And it's an honor to today present the plaque, and I want to thank Councillor Mike Cohen for spearheading this. I believe we have a plaque that we're going to be erecting in Chalet 1, where the Scrabble Club was partaken on a weekly basis, and it'll forever be there in his memory. So I want to thank his family and friends and colleagues for all coming out tonight and being a part of this. So, Councillor Cohen.
I just wanted to say a few words. We had a beautiful tribute downstairs. I want to thank Ryan Nemiroff and Anissa Cameron and the recreation staff for putting together something that kind of was unprecedented. Almost a year after Bernard left us, I know that I was getting a lot of calls from families saying, how would the city recognize Bernard? And I took it to Cornelia Zigar, head of Parks and Recreation, and we felt what would be more fitting than making sure that every Scrabble player for years to come, when they go into Chalet 1, is reminded of who Bernard Gottlieb was, and you'll see the replica of the beautiful plaque that we're going to put up. I think Bernard would be very proud of it. But over 70 people are here tonight, and there probably would have been more to pay tribute to Bernard's memory, and we had a lot of people downstairs sharing their memories of Bernard, and people all agree what an extraordinary person he was. There's a book that Bernard wrote about his life, and if you're interested to learn more, there's 5 copies apparently at our library that you could take out, and I'm telling you, somebody should turn that into a movie script, because people would not believe that it's a true story, and it is a true story. So, Mr. Mayor, with your permission, we can call up some people to join us for the presentation of the plaque.
Right, so if Bernard's brother and sister can come up, and as well I'll invite former Mayor Livman and Brownstein to come up as well for the picture. The council can join us. Devoted Scrabble enthusiast who found joy in words and company around the board. So before we move on to question period, we're just going to, there's a few things that are important that I'd like to remind everybody that today, well, it's Erev Yom HaZikaron, and that's part of the reason why some of us came in a little late to the event, to the council meeting. We were at Federation for the important event. So we're going to start off the night by reading a resolution that declares the month of May as the Jewish Heritage Month. Alors, attendu que la population juive de Côte Saint-Luc reflète une histoire riche et variété de peuples juifs dont les origines remontent de nombreuses régions du monde et qui s'inscrit dans numereuses traditions pratiquant le judaïsme. Where Statistics Canada notes that the Jewish population in the country is approximately 400,000, more than 1% of the total Canadian population, making it the fourth largest Jewish population in the world. Attendu que la communauté juive a une longue et fière histoire au Canada et qu'elle a contribué de manière significative au bien-être et à la croissance et à la prospérité du Canada, tout en surmontant des obstacles considérables. Where in 2019, the Canadian Parliament adopted Bill S-232, an act respecting Canadian Jewish Heritage Month, a designation for the month of May as a Canadian Jewish Heritage Month, thereby recognizing the important contributions that that Jewish Canadians have made to Canada and to Canada's social, economic, political, and cultural fabric. Attendu que le Parlement canadien a déclaré que le mois du patrimoine juif canadien sera l'occasion de se souvenir, de célébrer et d'éduquer des générations futures sur le rôle inspirant que les Canadiens juifs ont joué et continuent à jouer dans leur communauté et à travers le pays. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council recognizes the contribution of the Jewish community to the success of Canada, and that the City of Côte Saint-Luc hereby declare every month of May be celebrated as Jewish Heritage Month in the municipality. So it's an honor to present that resolution today, and I'm looking for a seconder to the resolution. I think is it a unanimous seconding? And so moved and passed. So thank you very much. I also want to take this opportunity to remind everybody that Yom HaTzmaut is going to be, Israel's Independence Day falls within the Jewish Heritage Month, and it makes an occasion for a more meaningful celebration as we celebrate both the rich history and the vibrant culture of the Jewish community. For the last 25 years, many residents of Côte Saint-Luc have played a central role as key drivers of the Jewish Unity Partnership Israel Day celebration, which will once again take place at the Place du Canada at 10:45 this Wednesday, April 22nd. What makes this event particularly special is while cities around the world mark Yom HaTzmaut, in Montreal proudly, they celebrate. This is the only celebration that is in and on the Yom HaTzmaut Day. And this distinction not only reflects the strength and vitality of our local community, but also its deep connection to heritage, identity, and shared values. There'll be buses leaving from various locations at 10 a.m. from the Côte Saint-Luc Mall, Cavendish Mall, DeCarry Square malls, and I encourage everyone to attend and take part of the celebration, which consistently brings people together through joy, music, dancing, and a sense of unity. Events like this remind us of the positive power of community culture and shared celebration. It's more of what we need in these days of unity and celebration all together. So I urge you to tell your friends, and I urge you to join in the beautiful celebration, and we can celebrate not only Independence Day, but a Jewish Heritage Month altogether. So I want to thank you for that. there is one more item that I want to remind people about, and that is May 12th is going to be Ruth Kovac Blood Donor Clinic it's going to be at the ACC. So that's going to be from 1:30 till 8 p.m. So you can book your appointments on emaquebec.ca. Our target is 150 donations. So if you can make a donation, please do come out and again, May 12th from 1:30 till 8 p.m. So that is that, and now we move on to first question period. First up is Ariella Weiner. So I'll invite you to come up to the mic.
I have a statement followed by a question. Good evening. My name is Ariella Weiner, and I'm an athlete and a member of the Côte Saint-Luc Tennis Club. It's truly an honor to be here, but I wish it was under certain different circumstances. For me, the Côte Saint-Luc Tennis Club is not just a club, it's a second home. I've been a member since the age of 6. It's right across from my house. From a young age, tennis wasn't just something I did. It became everyday life. I grew up on those courts. I learned how to hold a racket there, how to win, how to lose, and mostly how to keep going. Through the TSPA tennis camp, based in the club, I didn't just improve my skills. I learned to be the athlete I am today. That camp shaped me, pushed me, and gave me opportunities. Beyond the training, it gave me something even more important: friendships. The people I met there became teammates, supporters, and some of my closest friends. Together, we made memories that I will carry for me for the rest of my life. The games we would play, the round robins and the pizza Fridays, that feeling of jumping in the pool after working your butt off, the La Ronde National Bank outings, and much more. This year is especially important to me. I'm going to be preparing to compete in the Maccabi Games in Israel. Every weekday, since the start of the year, I've been going to ACC in the mornings before school to train. But my plan was simple. Once the weather would start clearing up, I would come to the courts and train before school day. But now, that's no longer possible. The closure of this club isn't just a loss of a facility. It's a loss of a community, training ground, and place that shaped so many young athletes like me. It's a loss of space where kids grow, not just as players, but as people. I'm stand here today not just to share my story, but to remind everyone of what this club truly means. It's more than just courts and a net. It's a dedication, growth, friendship, and opportunity. So now I really ask, why to close this club?
Thank you very much for very eloquent. You spoke beautifully, and I appreciate your comments and your question. And I know there's going to be a lot of questions today on tennis, and I want to give everybody the time to, sorry, wait for the phone to, if it's for me, I'm not here. I want to explain a little bit, and this answer goes to everybody. And your questions will be welcome. Everybody's questions, I know there's very, very varying levels of questions, and some more detailed, some more broad. What's important to understand, and this is for everybody to understand, the tennis club is closed temporarily. We're not shutting it down. Now, it's 20 to 25 years overdue in terms of maintenance. So that's one of the issues. The second issue is that there's a year-over-year loss in operational funding for the tennis club that only served approximately 170 members. So we have to recognize a significant loss on a year-over-year basis, on top of which the city would have to put approximately $2 to $3 million just to redo the courts. Now, I know there's questions as to whether the courts need to be redone or not, and we can debate it or not, but the specialists are telling us, the people that understand clay court, people that are the ones that actually maintain courts, have told us the clay courts need to be redone, and as well as our staff. So that's something that was going to be invested in. Now, that $3 million was not going to touch the lights, was not going to touch the fences, was not going to touch the irrigation, was not going to touch the parking lot or the chalet. We would have had $3 million of investment of city funds, plus a year-over-year loss in the operations of the club for a limited number of people. So the project that I brought forward, the project that we're pushing forward, is a project that's going to embellish the club, that's going to make it hopefully, if we can get it done soon, will be a 12-month operational tennis club, where our residents will all have access, equal access, at the same cost, marginally, obviously, because if they're going to be playing 12 months a year, they're going to have to pay for 12 months of the year, but they'll have access to 12 months of tennis, 12 months of indoor pickle, 12 months of padel, I don't know how to say it in English. So what we're doing is we're being smart with the city funds. We're taking a club that was going to be closed already because of the state of the courts. The previous council and this council decided that the work needed to be done, and therefore the club was never going to be open this season. Unfortunately, that wasn't communicated with everybody. We did that this year. We've been working with other cities, so we have Hampstead, and I understand there's issues with the the reciprocity in terms of us being able to play at Hampstead, but there are 9 courts in Hampstead that we have access to. There are 5 courts at Wager that we have access to. There are 2 courts at Rembrandt that we have access to, as well as Dorval, which is opening up, as well as Montreal West that has just opened up courts for our players as well. And then there's CDL in Côte Saint-Luc. Not all of those are convenient for everybody. I understand that. And them not playing in Côte Saint-Luc is also not my preference, but it's the reality of what we have to deal with. So if clay is important, and I know clay courts is a critical element for many of our players. Hampstead, Dorval, Montreal West, and CDL. And the city of Côte Saint-Luc is, to our members, the members of the tennis club are defraying the additional costs of joining those other clubs. We're also making deals with those other cities, and we're speaking to some of the clubs as well to make sure that access is at least there to a certain number. Now, we have 20 members only that have joined the Hampstead Tennis Club, and that's a positive move. Maybe more people will join, but the access to the clay courts is there. The access to other courts is also there. So we're putting every effort to make sure that our tennis players are not left out in the cold, but we're also working extremely hard. And I say this seriously, we're working extremely hard to ensure that going forward, we have tennis courts that are at highest quality, accessible to everybody at the same cost, and 12 months of the year. I think overall, everything you spoke about the importance of tennis, the importance of community and sports will be elevated in Côte Saint-Luc. But to be able to do that, we need to break a few eggs, make the omelet, and then we're going to have, I tell you, we're going to be the envy of other cities when we're going to have a tennis club in Côte Saint-Luc where our residents and our members are going to have the same access that they always have. It's just a period of time where we don't have access to our own club. But again, the city's done a lot of efforts. Our staff has done a tremendous amount of work making sure that access to tennis clubs remains there. We're going to be cleaning off, there's a process that they're going to be cleaning off the Wager courts, making them even nicer than they were last year. Same thing with Rembrandt. So again, we're putting every effort to make sure that tennis is not accessible now, but with a plan for the future. Thank you very much. Mr. Steinberg, Eric Steinberg.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, I think some of you may remember me. I spoke at the last meeting in support of continuing the tennis club. I followed that up with various emails. A few of the councillors, Councillor Schuster, Krajewski, and particularly Councillor Fabian did respond, and there was a bit of a dialogue going on. I noticed last time at the last meeting this microphone was not working, and the recordings, you couldn't hear the people speak. Has that been repaired?
Yeah, yes, now we're good.
Sounds
Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
It's,
I'm going to repeat a little bit what I said last time, just quickly, and add a couple of things that I found out subsequently, and then I have a couple of questions to ask.
Mr. Arnott, I just want to be fair to everybody, because we have a lot of questions. If we can just keep it to just the pertinent questions, so that at least I can get to everybody's questions.
I understand. I'll be brief.
Thank you very much.
My first comment, though, is concerning the state of the courts and whether they need to be redone. Years ago, like when our courts were built 70 years ago, the way they built them was different. They would have 4 or 5 layers underneath, gravel, clay. I'm not an expert in this, but I've discussed it with people who know. The courts, you're saying they have I've heard this repeated, 15 to 20-year lifespan. That's not true. Our courts are 70 years old. And I see quite a few Côte Saint-Luc tennis players here. Any players who have played in Côte Saint-Luc in the last few years who found the courts, let's say, at least adequate, could you please have a show of hands? I challenge you to find one player from, and just for the record, there's quite almost everybody here, full house, raise their hands. I challenge you to find more than 1 or 2 players who would complain about the quality of the courts. I was told by the person who is in charge of the Mont Tremblant Tennis Club, which is also a municipal club. Their courts are as old as ours. They've never done a major overhauling. He mentioned that there's at Grey Rocks, there are some clay courts that are over 80 years old and are still some of the best courts around. So I'm telling the council, don't take it for granted that those courts have to be completely redone. Maybe the top layer or 2 layers. Don't throw out a concrete base. So that's just a little bit more information I'm giving you as food for thought. But my question is, the last time we were here and in the subsequent emails, I was told that and my main concern, if I can just, back up one moment, is why we're closing the club this summer. I don't think you realize how bad that is for the club, because a lot of members now are joining other clubs. Some have initiation fees. They're paying that. They're not going to come back so quickly. Other people might just give up the game. There's quite a few. I'm not that young myself, but there's a lot of players older than myself who have a regular game there. I don't understand why it has to be closed this year. And the answer I consistently got from Mr. Fabian, from you, Mr. Mayor, was that you had a plan and you were going to start doing work this summer. And I pointed out to you that it didn't seem realistic that on that short a time frame, you would do the proper studies, have the plans, call for tender, evaluate the tenders, et cetera, get the work scheduled. And that was a month ago. So what I'd like to know is what concrete steps have been taken to get shovels in the ground this summer since the last meeting? Because at the last meeting, when I posed the question, the answer was nothing had been done.
So thank you for the question. So quite a bit of work has happened since our last meeting, and we're getting ready to launch what's called an expression of interest. So we're going to be launching essentially a document with parameters. And a lot of those parameters have to do with access for our residents and the quality of play that we're looking for. That's going to go out to the public. We've already had discussions with various enterprises, companies that have a tremendous amount of interest in building a facility in Côte Saint-Luc. Now, this is what's going to be called a PPP, a private-public partnership arrangement, where the city offers the land and the private enterprise builds. Private enterprise is much more nimble, much more cost-effective, and much faster than a city would be to build and operate. And so they're going to be the ones operating this.
Have you selected somebody?
We're getting ready to go out for an expression of interest to find the companies that will then bid on the project.
Well, how long will that take?
So the expression of interest is going to go out for approximately a month. I don't have the exact dates yet, so we're looking at about a month of that period where they're going to express interest and supply us with information. The studies, I can tell you, those are going to happen very quickly. There's no environmental studies that are required. We've already evaluated. We have all of the plans that we need for the tennis courts. In terms of your question related to...
You have plans?
Sorry, sir. The quality of the courts, those, again, you mentioned it as well, and I'll state it as well. I am not an expert. I'm basing myself on the experts who are telling us the courts are not playable. At the quality,
that is simply not true.
Sorry.
Any fool can go there and know that's not true.
Again, everything is playable. You can play on hard court as well, but that's not a choice that people are making. We took all of the efforts and steps necessary to ensure that our players have access. Again, investing $3 million, a year-over-year loss, investing $60,000 just to open the courts. If we want to have an open discussion, the invitation is there. We've had multiple email exchanges. I think you've also been called to have a meeting. We're very open to having a meeting. I don't think this is the venue to have a full-on discussion. But what I want to say is that there's a $60,000 investment just to open the courts, and so the current plan, unfortunately, we can't open them because of the costs associated with it. There's union issues. I know people have been saying that they'll run it themselves. The reality is that's not feasible, and we also have union issues as well as other issues to deal with, as well as the fact that the courts are again, according to the experts, need to have multiple layers of clay added. So I'm sorry, I don't want to continue the discussion. This is a question period. So the investment will be done on the private side. So the city's offering land, the private sector will be offering the balance of the construction. And so we're going to continue in a better way. Sorry, sir. And Mr. Steinberg, I really appreciate it. We looked into it. I said I would look into it, and we did. Unfortunately, it's not feasible. It simply is not feasible. Sorry, sir. You had like 6 last questions. Okay. Everybody's going to have a chance to ask questions as in the order. Thank you very much. So, Sharon Friedman.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I want to thank you, Mayor Torchman, for getting some pamphlets out on elder abuse. I really want to thank you very much. I posted, so I'm going to ask you for more. And I completed a very detailed document for you to have. As you know, elder abuse and fraud is a national disaster across Canada. Most, if not all of the fraud, are dealing with banks, which is federal jurisdiction. But there's also a very big part for municipal and for the provincial government to play, because we really need to get tough on white-collar crime, as people are losing millions. Last week, I was asked and attended the CIBC on Kildare, that they held an information meeting on fraud, what to do, how to avoid it, who to contact, and they're going to be doing it again. So I'm asking you if you could get a really detailed pamphlet with a lot of the stuff. It's all in here for you. out because it's really great, and if we can get some posters going. Now, one of the things I had asked, it was the vice president who was there, who I knew, and knew me, and apparently it's starting to percolate. I have also written, of course, to one of my favorite senators, my friend, is Senator Lafreda, because he is the president of the Standing Committee on Finance. He is in charge of all of the senators. He was just appointed. I know him. He's unbelievable. He was also past president of the RBC Bank for all of Canada. So needless to say, I'm trying to get on those white walls in banks, white walls in your library, everywhere. If you could get at least this out again, I would really appreciate it. So that,
Yeah,
okay, I'll give him a
Darryl.
copy.
Yeah, so we have been having campaigns on against fraud. We're educating our population as much as possible. We're also targeting the children of the seniors that are being targeted, unfortunately, in our community. We've had individual meetings with a few of the banks, and we're not going to stop on the efforts to educate our community. So I appreciate the comments. If you can just share that.
Yes, I am. I'm going to give it to you, and I can email it so you can make corrections or whatever. And blue and white's a nice color.
If you can just give it
to her, okay. The other question, just quickly, concerning the tennis courts. Oh, thank you. I thought you were taking me to jail for theft. I don't want to pay my bills to the government. Is maybe getting some infrastructure money from the federal government. Whereas when I went years ago on one project, I was told there's no money. You're going to hear. We're going to get the money for something.
In every direction. I appreciate it. We have efforts in every direction going, and we're looking at some of the grants that are available as well.
So I wanted to ask you what's happening with Cavendish, anything? Because even if you changed all the signs along Vizina, they're blocked along Vizina, but you can't even get onto a service road at 1:30 in the afternoon.
I'll give a quick answer to the last question.
Yeah,
So
they're doing the
there
pop
is
test.
advancement. I'm having discussions with the agglomeration. There is some movement, and so it's moving in a positive direction. But the route and all of the details still have to be finalized. But all I can say is that there's positive movement, and so hopefully in the next month I'll have more information, something that I can share with the public.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Wayne Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and fellow councilors. I'm back again to inquire about the tree in front of the neighbor's house. Is there any, because Hydro hasn't been by to mark the trees, I noticed around town there's a lot of HQs written down on trees with big yellow paint. If you can just come by and cut the limbs that are hanging over the house and the driveway and let Hydro take care of where the wires are. The tree is obviously in a very sad state. You know, I don't, my neighbor has called Public Works and they said, oh, we have to wait for Hydro. And they've called several times apparently. So they were informing me this weekend. I tried to get them to come with me tonight, but unfortunately he said, again, I'm busy. But, you know, that's it.
So we did have a follow-up, and sorry,
Stephen?
yeah.
I'm looking at my email, which is the same one from December, from December. So this is the message, and I think I shared this with you, but I'll read it again. So this is from Zachary Jacques. It's 670 Wolseley.
Yeah.
The tree is healthy, but could use some trimming to bring it away from the building. Unfortunately, there are medium tension wires in the way, which makes it so that only Hydro Quebec can do it. As of right now, they're quite busy. They won't be able to do any work until next year. This was, again, from December. Since this case is not urgent, as the tree is not causing any damages or major nuisance, it will be handled in 2026.
Well, I hate
this
to
is-
I know, I hate to
This is
disagree.
from,
I know, I
this
hate to
is from
disagree with
the-
it, but if he came by, he can see that the tree is cracked open at least another 3-4 inches.
So can we?
So I should have brought some more pictures tonight.
I will-
I didn't, but I would appreciate it if.
We'll ask staff to go back
Yeah.
and reevaluate.
I will
quickly.
follow up. This is, like I said, from early winter, so I will follow up to see.
Approximately 15 years back, the city did come by and they did cut a bunch of branches leaning towards the house and so on and so forth. They didn't do any of the branches cutting where the hydro wires were.
So- Right, so we'll have staff go back,
Yeah,
especially with the change to the.
I'd appreciate it.
And we'll
Yeah.
follow up with Hydro
Okay.
again.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I'll just.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
then.
very much.
Yeah, the only thing, if I may add, just that the rules, it's possible in the past the city did do it. I was going to say, I know the rules, some of the CNSST rules in terms of what the city can and cannot do in proximity to hydro lines, so, but I will follow up.
If we get
Well,
evaluated,
these-
it's dangerous, we can escalate.
The big limbs I'm talking about are not near the
Yeah.
hydro lines. They're more towards the house, but that's okay. Alrighty. I was just hoping that I would get a more positive answer, that's all.
Well, we'll,
Okay?
Thank you.
Because it is going to fall and kill somebody, I'm sure, and property damage.
we'll get that evaluated again and we
Thank
push
you.
it up
Have a
the-
good evening.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Mr. Fisher, Norman Fisher.
Sitting down is easy, standing up not so easy. I have 3 short questions. Each question has a brief comment. My first question is, when will the courts at Rembrandt be functional?
It's a very good question. I believe imminently, but I know there's a cleaning that's scheduled. I
The
don't have-
courts are clean.
Well, no, what they're doing is it's a separate issue, but they're going to be cleaning the courts so the lines are a bit nicer, just a sprucing up.
There's no maintenance, only the nets have to be put up.
So again, that's an opinion, but we're still going to do the work to embellish it, and that's fine.
My comment is
Yeah.
that the hard courts at Hampton have been open 10 days, and many people have been, and they took away 4 courts for pickleball. The other 8 courts are fully used.
So I will follow up
Okay,
on that.
so I live across the street from Rembrandt, and I would like to play at Rembrandt. I even bought the fun card. Now, second question. So you don't have an answer as to when...
I don't have the date. I was told imminently, but I'll get an exact date, and we can. I think we have your number here. We don't have your number, but
Sure I did. I put my phone number down 3 times.
no, here. I'm sorry, on this one. I don't have your number. I have your address, though. But we'll publish it in various means. We'll get out to the.
Hopefully before the next
I might
council.
even have the date right now. May 2nd.
May 2nd.
May 2nd. That's the date that I have.
Terrific. Okay, second question. Has to do with Hampstead.
Yes.
Are you aware that the people who live in Hampstead who have year-long memberships in the recreation, and those who have specific tennis memberships, they can reserve courts for 4 days in advance. But Côte Saint-Luc residents, because they're not part of Hampstead, can only reserve the next day, which means either if there's a hierarchy of what are good courts and what are not good courts, or if all the courts are taken, we're off Souris. So whoever organized that agreement didn't take that into account. That their rules specify they can reserve on Tuesdays, everybody else can reserve on Wednesdays. That's the reason I didn't join and I won't join. And many of my friends won't join either. And that's why you only have 20 people. I doubt whether it will increase.
So just to answer that question, because it's an important, it wasn't a question, but I'll address it anyways. I have to say I'm not happy with the agreement, but I can tell you that our staff and then our council was certainly not pushing for this. We did not want this. We wanted to have the equal play like everybody else in Hampstead. When they came to Côte Saint-Luc, we opened up our courts to their pro. We opened up the courts to everybody. And we were hoping to have the same reciprocity. Unfortunately, that's not the agreement that we were able to get. This was the best that they were going to offer. And yes, they reserve on Tuesday. Our residents reserve on Wednesday. Their residents can reserve up to 3 courts. And then apparently we can do the same thing, but a day later. So I understand we're in second standing there. It's not.
I don't like being a second standing
I agree with you.
Citizen. I just don't like it.
It
doesn't sit well with me.
I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. We are working with Montreal West. They've offered us some times and courts as well. We're working with the facilities that we can. Again, Dorval is an option. CDL is another option. There are people that have reserved and joined up to the Hampstead. We're hoping that more people will join. If this agreement, we see our residents are not getting the times, we're going to certainly push back with Hampstead and hopefully get a better agreement with them.
And my third question has to do, it was covered partially by Mr. Steinberg, but I have a different slant on it. When will the plan be visible so that people who have been involved in tennis over the decades can lend their expertise to what is put forward? When will it be ready?
So the expression of interest is going out within the next month approximately. Following that, we're going to be including the experts that we have at hand. The volunteers, the people that know the tennis.
Is there a date?
I don't have a date for that yet, but we have to work with the potential bidders on this, and we're going to be putting together a tender that's going to include the information and the advice from the users.
My comment is that this is very ill-conceived because there is no reason why we couldn't have started the season with the tennis club open while everything else that you were doing was in progress. So that with the tenders and with the establishment of the plan and the consultation and everything else that goes into it, if it would have started, if the agreements could have been signed in the fall, and then next year the club was closed, but we would all be on board with a broad agreement as to what was going to be done. Our problem is with keeping the courts closed this summer when it's possible that it'll go to 2 years, not 1 year. That's my point.
I appreciate the comment.
I thank you for your...
I appreciate the comment. Again, investing significant amount of dollars for 160, 170 members was not something... Sorry, there was a question and I was just going to answer it out of respect. So the significant investment that would have been required to open up the courts this year was a large investment. And as mayor and this council didn't think it was appropriate or to put forward that kind of money for a limited number of residents. When we can develop and develop a project that, no, sorry, sir, that's the end of the question. There's no disputing, sir. I'm gonna move on to the next.
150 members. That's not true.
Okay, I appreciate.
Because there's a tournament. The provincial tournament is held. Every member has a family with children. There's a pool. We're talking about 700 or 800 people, not 150. I really take offense at that.
Okay.
It's a vibrant club with a community that enjoys it.
So it is a
so I don't like this 150 and limited.
We have 160, 170 members. I'm going to end the question right now. We have 160 registered members. That is 160, 170 members. And then we have additional youth as well as again, there are people that use it, like you mentioned, but membership and dollars, we have to be responsible with the money that the city spends, and spending this amount of money was an inordinate amount of money to spend on a limited number of users. So thank you for the question. So Beverly Rapp. Oh, please, please, please do come. Don't worry, Beverly. No, I understand. So we're gonna, the mic is not gonna pick you up. So can somebody? Yeah, thank you. So I hear you, and I'm going to allow Councillor Sabag to speak, because he has a little bit more knowledge on the specific issue. But the larger part of the issue, unfortunately, is not, the city can't regulate doorman or no doorman, and the agreement that tenants have with their landlords is not something that city can necessarily get involved with unless it's a safety security issue. In this particular case, it seems that this is a régie issue that you would have to regulate. You sign an agreement with and I defer to the lawyers on this one, but you sign an agreement with your landlord or the previous owners on a level of service, and that has changed. So it's not, again, we can't regulate doorman or no doorman. That was a difficult one. But on safety issues, if there's a particular safety issues, that's where we can get certainly involved. But I'm going to pass it off to the councillors. You wanted to?
I just wanted to add a couple of things that we've had a conversation about this last week, I believe, last week. Look, it's a problem. We came up with a couple of ideas we can throw and see what sticks. Automated doors, key fobs, stuff like that. I'm very concerned that the resident cannot exit the building in case of an emergency without help. I mean, and that I think the city can maybe nudge a little bit on the fire department and stuff like that.
Well, I think our first step would be, and I had full intent of reaching out when I heard about this, reaching out to the owners and seeing if there's something that could be done. I don't know if that's already happened on your end, but okay. So it is something that I'm willing to undertake and explore with them. Again, the city can't force them to have a doorman, but obviously if there's safety issues, we'll look at it with urban planning, we'll look at it with the fire department, and see if there's anything that we can apply. I'm unsure. I'm not sure. Sorry, Councillor Fabian.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, have you reached out to any of the housing legal clinics, Arnold Bennett or Housing Hotline or Project Genesis? Okay. Okay, because there are, maybe not them, there are other legal clinics. So there's Arnold Bennett and there's the McGill Information Clinic. They sometimes they provide legal advice, but other times they just guide you through the process of the TAL, of the what used to be called the Régie du Logement. So they help you file the applications, and they can even accompany you to court. Because I mean, like the mayor and Councillor Seebeck said, we can nudge, but we don't have jurisdiction. So if the complaint were to come because it's, for example, hypothetically a violation of your lease agreement, then you might be able to, go to the TALF, and those organizations would be able to assist you.
So, like I mentioned, I'll speak to the owners. I'll reach out to them. You know what? You emailed us today, correct? Is that? Right. So okay. So I just want to make sure I have your contact information. We'll have somebody get back to you.
It's an organization. It's not just the individual. So it's yeah. So, but there isn't just that organization. There are other organizations that do similar work who may be able to give you more assistance. Yeah, the city probably has access to a lot of those people.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Mayor, just wanted to add a short comment, because I know Beverly, and as the publisher of Inspirations newspaper for the last 18 years, special needs newspaper, I'm glad she's here. I'm glad she's making this public. I hope Joel Goldenberg is taking good notes by his tape recorder, because I think that people who own buildings, and I have many buildings in my constituency, and I found that they're very considerable to people with disabilities. I think it needs to be said that there's a person in that building, and probably others with mobility issues, and I think when you own a building, you need to take that into serious consideration. So I'm glad the story is being made public, and sometimes this can be settled in the court of public opinion, which is starting tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Okay, so we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Paula Horowitz.
Hi, my name is Paul Horowitz. I've been a member of the tennis club for more than 20 years, and I was manager of the tennis club for 5 years. So I have a little bit more intimate knowledge as to the goings-on and the functioning than a lot of other people. The aquatic center, I believe, and the ice skating rink also operate at extremely large deficits. But that's one of the functions of the city, to provide services to the people, to its citizens.
Right, you're 100% right, but those are public. The tennis court is a private club run with a membership. So there's a very clear distinction between the public and the private clubs. So that's one of the issues that we're contending with.
The tennis club was a private club, and I believe in, give or take, 1997, an de-amalgamation, it was turned over to the city. The tennis club, until, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, had an executive, members of the tennis club. They do not have any executives of the tennis club. So my understanding would be that at this point, it is exclusively a city operation. However, the point that I am making is, nevertheless, the city is responsible for servicing the population and seeing that people have a good quality of life. Personally, I would like to see the club open permanently, and I think it's quite functional, and it can continue for quite a few years. However, it's also your responsibility to upgrade, and if you decide to close the club, and if you decide to to upgrade its services for the population. That's your responsibility and that's your function. I may not like it, but I fully understand it and I go along with it. However, there are numerous members who are senior citizens, many of whom over the age of 70 and over the age of 80. The environment within the club is very, very intimate and very, very close and very, very sociable. And there are members over the age of 90, people who do not do many activities until coming to the club, and they play for a short while and they're sociable. If the club is closed for 2 years, they're never going to come back, and it's going to, in the long range, affect that they're not going to be as healthy as they would be if the club were open. So my own feeling is, by all means, it's your responsibility to close the club for 1 year. Personally, and this you can phrase it in the term of a question, I can't conceive of the club being closed only for 1 year. I imagine that it's 2 years. From what I see, the club can be open if you so desire, probably by June 1st. I certainly myself and a few others would help as a volunteer to train some of the young kids who come and who work to service the club.
So I appreciate the question. So I appreciate the question, and the reality is it's not going to be closed for 2 years. I don't know where 2 years is coming from. It's going to be closed for the season, as was always going to be the case. Again, it just wasn't communicated with the members of the tennis club. The tennis club was scheduled to go under major renovations this summer. Again, $2 to $3 million just for the courts, and it wasn't going to touch the lights, it wasn't going to touch the fences, it wasn't going to touch the irrigation, it wasn't going to touch the chalet that needs renovations and upgrades, or the parking lot that is flooded on a regular basis. So again, $3 million plus a year-over-year loss for a limited number of members was too much for the city to be reasonable about the investment. I just want to so you're absolutely correct. Our arena, our library, our city parks are free and open access for our residents. It's the raison d'etre of the city. What I want to do, and tennis is important, it's not a sport that I play regularly, but sports as a general rule is important to me and this council. So we do want to upgrade. We want to have courts that are playable not only a few months of the year, but 12 months of the year. So I want to be able to offer you courts that will be privatized, because the private sector will be much faster and more nimble in building and operating a tennis club that you're going to have access to. So I understand that the members don't have access to the Côte Saint-Luc club, but we've been working with other cities. Again, I'm repeating a lot of the questions, it's the same questions, but we've given access, and the city is paying for this, to Hampstead. There's going to be Montreal West. There's going to be the 7 courts that we have in Côte Saint-Luc. There's Dorval. There's as well as the private club of CDL. So we're not only paying for a portion of the additional cost that residents and members have to pay, but we're working with the other cities to make sure that the access to tennis doesn't stop. As well, again, upgrading the tennis, making sure that all of our residents have access to embellished and upgraded facilities. So that's our responsibility. Okay. We have to be fiscally responsible, and we can't spend $60,000 to $80,000 and service a handful of residents. So that's my take on it.
Okay, just briefly, I'm not objecting to your closing the club for a season. I think that realistically, if you go into a private partnership, you'll have an agreement in a month or 2, then it's their responsibility to get professionals and companies to come and do the work. The really good companies that they would want to get are probably filled up for their jobs in the summertime. So by the time they wind up getting a shovel in the ground, likely it would be more like September, if you want to be super optimistic, August. It's not going to be finished. So the reality is, and this, if you acknowledge this, then it's fine. It's going to, next year, there will be no tennis in that area for citizens of Côte Saint-Luc. That is, to me, my reality. If you can, because you should have started earlier, you should have closed the courts this year, and next year it would be fine. It's not going to happen in one season. My objection is 2 seasons closing it, and then, again, depriving seniors who really need the social component of 2 years. They're never going to come back to tennis.
I respect your opinion, and we're definitely working in a different angle to that, and certainly not 2 years. Jack Rosenfeld.
Hi. I've been a member since 1968, probably one of the oldest ones. That's before Woodstock.
That's the reference point.
Yes, exactly. I first of all want to say our interest is your interest. Your interest is our interest. So I would absolutely view your success as important to us, and so I think everybody supports the idea of improving racket sports in general, and not just keeping the existing members happy, but hopefully pulling in families and youth. That's what it really should be all about. What I'm wondering about is, if you have this plan that you're going to be putting out in a month or so and getting tenders, in that plan, do you have certain guidelines, restrictions? For example, one of the most important things for, I think, all members here is that in this plan, you have, as a minimum, 6 clay tennis courts that are true hard-true courts, that are not some, fast, put a mat down and then put some clay on. If we're going to have a serious tennis club, which will permit the returning of interclub and all the other social events that occur, but particularly interclub, you don't have clay courts, we're not in the game. So are there certain restrictions? Plus, you also mentioned that it's going to be a private public relationship. Right. How do you assure that the fees are going to be kind of in line with what's currently existing, particularly considering that we, as you've been saying, we haven't been running this profitably? How, if they're going to make this investment, which I assume is because you're saying that the courts are, not maintainable, we feel differently, but if they're not in good enough shape and they have to be redone, and it will be hard to redone, and that costs a tremendous amount of money, how does that private company make a profit and yet charge, like I'm a senior citizen, $330? How does that work?
They're all great questions. So first one was the restrictions. So we already have recreation has been working on creating the needs that the city has. We have engineering, we have all of the departments, and really it's a citywide effort. Finance is involved in HR, because obviously there's HR issues that we have to consider. The restrictions are in Grande Ligne, that all of our residents will have, we're going to reserve a certain amount of time. So we're going to have times for our residents. The fees will also be approximately what they are now. Obviously, we have to have a marginal increase year over year, like in every business. But we're going to fix what those fees are for the season. Now, if you play 2 seasons, obviously you're going to have to pay, right? Because you had 6 months now. If you have 12 months, there'll be an additional fee to play through the winter. The idea, and it's to your earlier point, we want to make sure that we attract more players. We want to make tennis and other racket sports more accessible. Part of what's integrated in there is that we're requiring that some courts are outside, so we're going to have some outdoor courts, and the balance will be indoor courts. Will the indoor courts all be clay? I can almost guarantee you not, but there will be indoor courts, at least 6 indoor courts, a few outdoor courts, complemented by pickle and padel courts indoors, as well as a pro shop and restaurant and all of this business. How are they going to make money? Our residents paying a certain amount of fees it'll cover some of the cost. But this place is going to be open from 7 in the morning till 11 at night. They're going to have a pro shop. They're going to have tournaments. They're going to have all of these other things that's going to give them an additional revenue stream.
Will you be subsidizing some of it?
No, we won't need to subsidize it because they're going to be making their money with the public, with the general public. So,
but you'll in your agreement, it'll be such that they cannot just charge anything they want. It's going to be in line with what
Côte Saint-Luc residents and the mechanics of where they reserve, do they reserve through our system, a recreation system or their system, these mechanics have to be worked out, but the fees will be fixed within the contract.
And the concept of outdoor clay courts is something that is
part of the agreement, yeah.
The other thing is, we're a resource. There are a lot of people who've done a tremendous amount of volunteering, and we're here to give feedback and give you some ideas in what's going on.
Absolutely.
And one last thing, I'll just jump on this on the side. As I get older, I was a competitive tennis player, ranked in the province. I do less and less because the body goes. And something I've turned to, which I think is something you might want to consider, is table tennis. There's an Echo Tennis Center on Snowden near Cavendish. 10 courts. I do 15,000, 20,000 steps just doing that. Good part of that's picking up the ball. And I would invite you to come out and see what's going on there, because it is an incredible social thing with people from all walks of life. And it's not something that you've considered, but I do think that as one ages, it's really a great stepping stone, something that you might want to think
I appreciate that, and we'll put it to recreation and
if you want to come out and
I would just like to
very
comment that I was also in favor of table tennis or ping pong being part of the racket club. I know that there are clubs on I think it's Lackady. There's a club in the church basement in Snowden that are extremely popular, and my husband is jumping to have this in Côte Saint-Luc. So we have some outdoor tables that hopefully maybe migrate as part of this, but having more racket sports I think would be really
outdoor
lovely.
is for ping pong is it's a fun thing, but you really need to be indoor because wind really impacts it.
Well, that's the good part, is you can blame it on the wind.
But anyways, anybody who ever wants to try it, I would invite them to come out and you'll see it's a real exercise.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. No, we're going to be closing the pool at the tennis court. No. Yeah. So we have I agree. I was going to mention that. So we have a few more questions here for tennis. If the questions are repetitive, I'll just say we've already answered that. So I appreciate the fact that there's more questions, but I really do want to get to everybody. So Fred, if there we go. I'm positive. We're going to finish the questions. I still have a lot of questions, and we haven't even started our meeting yet. So just please.
Hello, it's such an honor to be here, truly. Okay, there is a new subject, which is the tennis club.
Okay.
Now, to be just, it's not a full question. As you understand, I come from France. And when I came first here to play tennis, I was so surprised. It was like, first-class tennis. You've got people that clean your clean your court, the people. Nothing happened like that in France. And just to tell you, because I hear you from the beginning, you just mentioned that opening the court this year will cost money to the city. And what if it doesn't cost any pence? What if we don't need people to clean the court? Truly, we don't need people to maintain we just need, and I'm so, I'm very impressed to see all those people coming tonight just to fight for one thing. They just want to play tennis. But it's not playing tennis, it's a social,
Absolutely.
So what if it doesn't cost a penny? What if you just think about, rebuilding everything next year? And what if those people can just live their life cool?
So, we spoke about this on the weekend. So, just to say, if we didn't do it this summer, we're going to do it next summer, so that the club will be closed next summer, and then people are going to complain that the club is closed next summer. So it always has to be closed at some point if we're going to get this done. The reality is we started this process already. The tennis club was never meant to be open this summer. Now, I did look into the possibility of residents taking care of it. Not only are there, and we have to be realistic about this, union issues that we're going to have to deal with, because within the city structure we have unions. The lines are not down, the courts are not ready. Every year we hire a company, we have to put out 50 to 60 bags 50 to 100 bags, I forget what it was, how many bags, of hard true. So it was going to be about between $60,000 and $80,000 just to prepare the courts, and then everybody can maintain it. But the maintaining is not something that is realistic. I don't believe. I know France does things differently. I'm not starting a Franco-Canadian war here, but the reality is, between the union issues, between the reality of irrigating the ground, using the equipment, it wouldn't be realistic to do it now. Now, I'm not going to repeat everything that I said before, but we looked at it with recreation, and it's not something that's realistic at this moment. But I do agree.
Just to keep consideration this proposal, you don't have to answer right now. Usually we see you can sleep on it, and tomorrow we can. But truly, there is I just understood that there is tons of volunteer, and by the way, we all know that you can still start the new process in September, because I truly think also that nothing will happen this summer.
There's a construction reality that we have to face, and they're not going to be building in December and in January, so they have to start the construction before. So we're really looking at this in a very practical way, but I do appreciate the opinion that it can't happen this year. I have a different opinion, and we're definitely pushing in that direction.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. There's an order. I really appreciate it, and with all respect, there's an order to things. There's people that are ahead of you. I do not mind having offline. I understand that, but I do not mind having a private meeting with you and discussing all of the points. Madame Guita.
Bonsoir, Monsieur, Dame. Alors, c'est ma deuxième intervention pour le parc de Monsieur Alan Levin, qui est malheureusement...
Sorry, excuse.
Oui. Je viens vous parler de ce parc qui est utilisé par l'école des Amis du Monde. Je suis venue vous voir l'année dernière, mais rien n'a été fait. Nous, les propriétaires autour du parc n'ont pas le droit d'aller parce qu'ils ont 3 récréations. Et en plus de ça, le parc est devenu, à la fin de la journée, une poubelle. Alors, ils ont arraché les clôtures, le foam qui est par terre dans le parc aussi, il a été arraché, et jusqu'où ça va aller? Je suis venue l'année dernière pour parler de ce problème. Vous autorisez cette école à utiliser le parc, mais dans un autre quartier, l'école Merton n'a pas le droit d'utiliser le parc qui est juste derrière l'école. Alors comment ça se fait? Vous autorisez les Amis du Monde à utiliser le parc et pas l'école Merton?
Alors, les parcs publics sont ouverts au public. Alors, on ne donne aucune autorisation d'utiliser ou de ne pas utiliser les parcs. C'est à l'école de Merton qu'ils ont choisi de ne pas utiliser le parc parce qu'il y a des problèmes de surveillance. Ils veulent pas. Ils ont leur parc, ils ont leur terrain. Pourquoi est-ce que ce parc, en face des Amis du Monde, utilise notre parc? Et je dis notre parc, c'est le parc de la ville. Je ne suis pas certain, on en a parlé justement en bas, c'est la première fois qu'on en parle à ce sujet. Alors, on va en parler à l'école, voir qu'est-ce qui se passe. S'il y a des dommages qui sont causés, on va adresser le problème, c'est certain. Mais il n'y a aucune permission ou interdiction qui est faite par la ville. C'est un parc public, alors le public l'utilise. Alors, je ne sais pas, je vais demander au conseiller s'il y a déjà eu une discussion avec l'école. Je vais laisser M. le conseiller Kujanski expliquer un peu plus s'il y a eu des discussions avec l'école.
Bonjour Madame Kita, ça va?
Bonjour, ça va bien, merci.
If you don't mind, I'll answer you in English. So it's been more than a couple of years, 2 or 3 years since we spoke with the school. When we redeveloped Kerwin Park, at the same time, as you're aware, the school had expanded and they unfortunately shrank the size of their outdoor recreation area. They shrank the size of their schoolyard, so they relied more on the public park for their children to play outside. I think it is time for a reminder to the school administration that they should really remind the children to show the proper respect to the public space because they are using it probably more than we would have expected when we built the park. But that said, we've spoken about this too, that every single child who goes to that school is a Côte Saint-Luc resident, 100%. So it's all Côte Saint-Lucers, it's not outside the people who are not residents of the city using the park. But that said, they need to be reminded to respect not only the space, but also the fact that there are homes and people who are living right there. So noise, keep the children perhaps playing a little further away from the homes that are directly adjacent to the park. We had spoken with the new principal back about 3 years ago, so I think we'll speak with them again. At the time, they had an assembly and they reminded the children, they spoke directly with the children and with the parents to remind the children to respect the public space. I think it's time for a reminder of that.
Mais l'école a grandi, la cour d'école, ils ont, même là où jouaient les enfants, je le vois de mes propres yeux. Alors pourquoi ils traversent l'école, la rue, pour aller dans un parc alors qu'ils ont un grand parc?
On va leur en parler, on va leur faire
Et en plus, je ne peux pas amener mes enfants, ni même moi-même aller m'asseoir dans un banc, parce que c'est toujours occupé par les enfants.
Ce n'est pas une situation idéale, mais l'école a grandi beaucoup. Il y a beaucoup de population qui a besoin d'école en français. L'école a 500 élèves et maintenant c'est plus que 700.
Mais même s'ils ont 500 élèves, ils peuvent faire 2 récréations, une pour le premier cycle et une pour le deuxième, s'il y a vraiment beaucoup d'enfants.
Maybe that'll be part of our discussion.
Alors on va ouvrir une discussion avec eux et on va voir comment on peut régler, mais encore une fois.
D'accord, merci beaucoup. Et une autre question, c'est demander un peu plus de la sécurité publique autour du parc, autour du chalet, parce qu'il y a des enfants avec des trucs électriques, des scooters. Ils vont très vite, ils peuvent créer des accidents.
On en a parlé à la police, parce que c'est sur la route qui circule en principe.
Exactement.
Alors on en a parlé à la police. Il y a des lois de la vitesse, mais aussi de l'observation des lois de circulation. Alors on va mettre une emphase, on va demander à la police de mettre une emphase sur l'enforcement de ces points.
D'accord. Et pour l'école, donc, est-ce que je vais recevoir la suite?
Je vous invite à... oui.
Ok.
Après, on a fait un rendez-vous avec l'école. Je vais faire suite avec.
D'accord. Ok.
Merci
beaucoup. Merci.
Denny Josephovich.
Good evening. My first question is, you mentioned earlier there are going to be 6 courts, and you said also there are going to be indoor courts. does that mean that we're no longer going to have outdoor courts in the summer?
So I mentioned that we're going to have outdoor courts and indoor courts.
What does it mean exactly?
Some courts will be outside and some courts will be inside.
But permanently, does that mean permanently?
Oh, so there'll be at least 3 tennis courts that are outside and then some that will be inside. So I'll let you get to your question in a moment, but I'll address it.
And why would you choose it like 3 and 3? What was the reason for that? And not, let's say, 4 outdoor courts and 2 indoor courts?
We're looking at the orientation of how the land is set, and part of that was leading us to say 3 outdoor and the balance indoor. It's again still up for discussion. That is something that if everybody feels that, and the high users feel that we need more, we can certainly look into it. But there's a logistics and a geometry to the land that we have to respect. And so keeping some outside, keeping some inside is something that we're going to have to work on.
Can you guarantee that all these courts going to be hard-true courts?
So the outdoor courts will remain clay courts. The indoor courts, sorry, the outdoor courts will remain hard-true. The indoor courts, we're exploring options. There's the possibility of having a clay equivalent indoors. We're not sure that that's viable, but there will be outdoor courts and indoor courts available.
What is, I don't understand, what is this, what kind of court is that supposed to be?
Yeah, so we're going to find out, we're going to decide with the possible vendors what the indoor courts are going to be. One of the options is a clay equivalent, a hard-true equivalent for indoor play. Because you can't have certain type of clay indoors because of dust generation and all that, but there are options available for indoor clay-like courts. Again, those are not yet determined. We're going to be speaking with the users. We're going to be speaking with the vendors to see what options are available. We're going to find the best solution for everybody. But we don't have a determination as to what's going to be inside as of yet. Thank you. No, 3 outdoor and 6 indoor. Okay, so, okay, right. So we have Ariel Kinkler. So, if you write a question, your name and an address. We're gonna finish. We have 2 more questions, and then we're gonna be done.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. I'll try and be really brief. I just wanted to recap the events that brought us to where we are today. So this tennis club closure is it's a grave disservice, and it's causing a lot of prejudice to citizens who are taxpayers in CSL in good standing. Back in September, 3 women went to Laval: Cornelia Ziga, Dita Burku, and Andy Schuster, to meet with a pedal operator who was going to rent out part of the tennis club, and that was going to be a major component of the revamp.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't want to be interrupted, please. So,
we have to get that question though, right? Okay.
So this revamp, the price tag was not too exorbitant. It would have easily increased membership enormously, and this was acknowledged by your staff, Mr. Angelo Marino. He looked over the numbers and he said, the numbers make sense. We're going to get the money from the pedal operator, and let's roll with this. Then it was also mentioned that grants were available from Tennis Quebec, Tennis Canada, the provincial and federal governments. So what it left us with was a brand new clubhouse, parking lot, 3 pedal courts, 7 or 8 outdoor clay courts, a truly perfect plan. This was in September 2025. There was enough time to get the workers in there by late April, which is now. Instead, what happened? 4 major fallacies took precedent, which for some unknown reason, all the councillors here bought into and all flipped. Fallacy number 1.
Okay, point of order, Mr. Mayor. Can we get to a question, please?
Yeah.
Fallacy number 1. The club is only operational.
Yeah, we have to get that question.
We don't need to hear
I'd like to finish. I'd like to finish, please. I'd like to finish, please. The first fallacy, the club is only operational 4 months out of the year.
No,
We all know.
Ariel, please just ask your question.
I'm getting to it. We all know that the club is operational 6 to 7 months out of the year, April to November. Outdoor hard courts have been open for 2 weeks across Quebec, except for here. Fallacy number 2, the club is totally unplayable and must be immediately shut down. It is impossible to play on the surface in the state it
really
currently
appreciate
is.
your opinion, but I need to get the
Another
question.
totally false statement.
Okay.
Fallacy number 3, the club must be run by an outside private third-party operator because the city can't run a tennis club of this nature.
30 seconds until the question.
Another fallacy, the tennis club must be covered with a dome, leaving minimal outdoor clay courts because that's what the citizens want.
20 seconds.
So, obviously, a covered dome will never work in that part of Côte Saint-Luc because the noise alone of the compressor would be a non-starter, and structures of this nature only work in industrial areas. So the question is, Director Ziga recognized that this plan made sense back in September, as did the whole council. Why did all the council flip and squash that plan when your own staff member, Angelo Marino, said to roll with it?
Perfect. Now I can answer the question. So the answer to the question is that the real evaluation was done after, and we looked at the numbers, we looked at the project. It wasn't feasible to do the project that you're proposing, and I don't know what the information that you got, through internal channels, we'll say, but the reality is so we'll agree on that, but what I am saying is that that project was not feasible. We were not going to spend the amount of dollars that was being proposed, and so therefore we're moving to a more reasonable project, which is more reasonable for the city finances, for all of Côte Saint-Luc residents, to improve tennis for all residents. And that's the project that we're moving towards, and I thank you for your question. Thank you. Thank you very much for your opinion. I appreciate it. Michael Schaefer, next question. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate your opinion. Michael Schaefer, thank you.
I'll try to keep this light. When I came here this evening and I saw the council meeting packed, I said to myself how lucky a man I am that my children have bought a house in the promised land of Côte Saint-Luc. It is a council, a municipality that cares one for another. So thank you. This past Friday night for Shabbos, everybody was over at my daughter's house, all my children and their children, and how lucky, truly, we are that we live in this community. And they got around to talking about what they had to do in the house. And they had different ideas and how they would proceed with it. And they said, Dad, if you go to a council meeting, could you please ask them a few of these questions? And obviously, lower my taxes. Okay. So I said to them, they can only lower the taxes if they got more money coming in. My kids are astute. They jumped on it. And they said, what's happening with lowering the agglomeration costs from the city of Montreal that's overcharging Côte Saint-Luc?
It's a great question. We're working with the agglomeration. I have to say the new administration in Montreal is a different administration than the past. There are a lot of efforts that are being made to have a better accounting of what we're paying for. And we pay for fire department, police department, some city centralized services, but there are things that we pay for that we don't quite have a pin in yet, and we're trying to ascertain what those costs are and why our share of those costs are so high. So we're working on it. We have assurances that there's going to be reductions at the city center, which will in turn reduce our transfer duties. We just transferred $19 million. If you stay for the meeting, we just transferred $19 million to the city center. And hopefully in the coming years, we'll see a more efficient running of the city of Montreal. I believe that the mayor, Soraya, is targeting that, and that will certainly benefit all of the emerging municipalities as well.
Now, I'm only going to say this because I'm sure that everybody up on the podium thinks the same way about their children. They want their children to have a home in Côte Saint-Luc.
Absolutely.
They want their grandchildren to have a home in Côte
And I
Saint-Luc.
can tell you with the city of Côte Saint-Luc is working very hard to ensure that there's an increased housing stock, and that will offset.
That wasn't a question.
Right, that will offset our costs,
Okay.
our taxes. So we're
One of them happened to
so that was the.
You want me to get off the podium?
We can certainly have an offline discussion.
Can I just throw up one more idea?
Oh, quickly, yeah.
They said if Montreal got a gift from Quebec of the Hippodrome for $1 billion and they only paid $1, they should have come to Côte Saint-Luc and said, here, guys, here's 20% of the land.
We do have an
Put through
offsetting.
the
Yeah.
Cavendish extension.
We do have an offsetting agreement that will certainly help Côte Saint-Luc, but we're going to have to work towards that. Okay, thank you very much. And that brings to an end the first question period. If you want to ask questions in the second question period, it has to be related to the items on the agenda. So thank you very much for coming today. I am more than willing to have continued discussions one-on-one with the tennis enthusiasts in Côte Saint-Luc and working with you to make sure that the future of future projects are to the benefit of all residents. So moving on to approval of the minutes. Sorry. So the approval of the minutes, Councillor Fabian. Councillor Fabian?
It was so moved by Councillor Fabian to adopt the minutes from March 16th, 2026 from the regular council meeting held at 7 p.m. at City Hall.
And seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any comments, questions? Thank you very much. And moving on to the monthly departmental reports. Any councillors have anything to report? Oh, sorry, I apologize. Moving for the monthly departmental reports, Councillor Schuster.
The monthly departmental reports for March 2026 are hereby approved as drafted. And I'll just say briefly, I'll just jump right in to let people know, I should have said it when the room was full, that tickets for the Sound of Music are now on sale at the early bird rate. The Côte Saint-Luc Dramatic Society's production of the Sound of Music will open on May 28th and run from June 14th here downstairs in the Harold Greenspan Auditorium. And we have a few, Councillor Kajavsky, who is now left, has a cameo, and I'll be playing one of the nuns, and that's just worth the price of admission right there. And I'll let you move on.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. So you tabled them. Seconder, Councillor Erdely. Any comments?
I'll just add.
Sorry, can we just close the door over there? Just as a thank you. Is it working or no?
Microphone issues. I'll just add briefly, the audit process has begun. The auditors came in about a week ago, so by next month we should have the final numbers to share. I'll just mention also the drop-off during the Passover Easter season was quite successful. We had 365 residents came by to drop off post-sold hazardous material and other waste, up from 345 the previous year. And just to add, the mayor mentioned about Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaTzmaut. I'll just mention last week we commemorated Yom HaShoah, or the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And just to note, yesterday was April 19th. Yesterday was the anniversary for the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. One of the leaders was Mordechai Analewitz, and we have a street named after him, Yad Mordechai Place in Côte Saint-Luc. He was one of the leaders of the Jewish Combat Organization. And again, yesterday marked 83 years since the start of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Thank you.
Councillor Erdely, any other comments on the monthly departmental reports? Not hearing any, all in favor? Unanimously passed. And now moving on to financial services, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc Council approved the attached list of disbursements for the period of March 1st, 2026 to March 31st, 2026 for a total amount of $25,936,639.09 in Canadian funds, and that Treasurer Certificate number 26-0068 dated April 13, 2026 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any comments?
I'll just mention the highlights. So this is obviously larger than average disbursement. The biggest portion was for the agglomeration. This is our first payment of the Côte Par of approximately $19 million. Then some of the other ones, you had the CMM, which is the Communauté Métropolitaine de Montréal, some insurance payments, snow removal for rental and trucks, sidewalk payments, work on the aquatic center, and our monthly water payment to our contractor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. All in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Moving on to human resources, public safety hiring. Councillor Sabag. Let's see. Page 169.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc approves the hiring of Emma Allison, Alex Yayabe, and David Santarno as public security agents, part-time auxiliary white-collar position effective March 25th, 2026. The Treasurer Certificate number 26-0066 dated April 13th, 2026 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag, seconded Councillor Kujawski. Any comments? Any comments, Councillor Sabag? Sorry. Any comments?
Oh, comments? No.
Okay. Just hiring more public safety officers?
Yes, we're hiring more safety.
And
Part
we're
of
going to
the
have
budget
more
increased last year.
And more coverage, obviously, for public safety. All in favor? Looking forward, so unanimously passed, and looking forward to seeing those agents on the road. And now on to hiring of white-collar employees. Councillor Benizzi.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Est résolu que le Conseil municipal de Côte Saint-Luc ratifie l'embauche des employés auxiliaires col blanc dont les noms figurent sur le document intitulé Auxiliary Employees White Collars Hiring, daté du 10 avril 2026, et que les conditions d'emploi des dix employés seront conformes aux conditions de la convention collective, que le certificat du trésorier numéro 26-0067, daté du 13 avril 2026, a été émis par le trésorier de la ville, attestant la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses décrites ci-dessus.
Merci, conseiller Benizri. Secondé par le conseiller Cohen. Oui. Des commentaires?
C'est pour l'embauche des employés auxiliaires.
Super, super. Alors, tous en faveur? Merci à l'unanimité. Merci beaucoup. Et là, on passe aux services légaux. Alors, it's not a resolution, we're just a notice of motion and tabling of a draft bylaw, amending draft bylaw 2613, establishment of a dedicated fund for election expenses. This is a government requirement. Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hereby give the notice of motion for draft bylaw 2613-1 to be entitled Bylaw 2613-1, amending Bylaw 2613 concerning the establishment of a dedicated fund for election expenses and allocation of necessary sums. I also am tabling draft Bylaw 2613-1 entitled Bylaw 2613-1, amending Bylaw 2613 concerning the establishment of a dedicated fund for election expenses and allocation of necessary sums. And just a brief explanation, as the mayor said, it's a legal obligation by the province and we have to update amounts to accommodate contemporary costs. And yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. And I believe that is all, Director Schechter. Yes, thank you very much. The next is, I like that, Director Schechter. Sorry, so now moving on to draft bylaw 2580-1, amending of a bylaw, and this is also a notice of motion and tabling of a draft bylaw. Councillor Kujawski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hereby give notice of motion that draft bylaw 2580-1 be entitled bylaw 2580-1, amending bylaw 2580, readopting the code of ethics and good conduct for the employees of the city of Côte Saint-Luc will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. I mentioned as well the object and scope of the draft bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Kujawski. That has been tabled. Thank you.
I think I need to table as well, correct? Okay, so I will do so then. I will table draft bylaw 2580-1 to be entitled 2580-1, amending bylaw 2580, readopting the code of ethics and good conduct for the employees of the city of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councillor Kujawski. Moving on to 12C, it's a resolution for the approval of compensation proposed by the insurer, and that is for our EMS station. Councillor Fabian.
Yep. So moved and resolved that the council, that's Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby approves the compensation offered by the claims adjuster representing the insurer, that the council authorizes the city clerk to take any necessary action and sign all required documents in order to formalize the agreement on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Councillor Fabian, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any comments?
Just briefly, we're just finalizing the insurance compensation for the EMS building on Côte Saint-Luc Road.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Director. Now moving on to item, sorry, did we vote? We voted on that. Okay. Yeah, we did. Okay, we did. Okay, moving on to 13A, resolution. We didn't vote? I apologize. So all in favor? Unanimously passed. I apologize. I missed that one. And now public affairs and communication. So a resolution on road marking, durability, and public safety. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I shall read one or two of the whereases just to give a bit of context. Whereas the rapid deterioration of road markings reduces visibility for drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, and emergency vehicles, especially at night and during rain or snow, creating a road safety concern. Whereas municipalities have limited flexibility under current federal regulations to use alternative materials that could improve durability while still meeting environmental objectives. Whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities adopted a resolution in October 2025 calling on the federal government to review these regulations in order to balance the environmental protection, public safety, and municipal financial sustainability. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc calls upon Environment and Climate Change Canada to conduct a comprehensive review of the federal volatile organic compound regulations for traffic marking paint to ensure road safety, worker safety, environmental sustainability, and financial sustainability for municipalities. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc urges the federal government to provide interim funding to municipalities to offset increased road marking maintenance costs resulting from current regulations and to financially support the use of long-term durable pavement markings such as inlaid thermoplastic line markings. that the City of Côte Saint-Luc urges the federal government to consider both the safety and financial impacts of current regulations on municipalities, particularly in winter climates, that this resolution be forwarded to the local member of parliament, the local member of the National Assembly of Quebec, the Federal Minister of Environment and Climate Change, the Federal Minister of Transport, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Krzyzewski. Any discussion?
So I'll give a brief summary. I know we're late,
Yep.
but I'll just mention one of the issues we have, we're using water-based paint for our line painting. The problem is within a few months, it fades quickly. And not even, I was going to say the end of the winter, but really, I would say even halfway through the winter, a quarter of the way through the winter, a lot of the paint is gone. Now, we're not necessarily, advocating for, compounds that could be damaging to the environment, but we're asking the federal government to look at alternatives and to hopefully help us with that and with the funding as well. So I hope we'll get some positive results from this resolution. And maybe I'll just add, I don't know, it's not in here, but I would say just maybe for Maître Tanguay, s'il vous plaît de partager avec les autres villes. So maybe to share it with the other cities as well, so that they can possibly use it as a template. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. I will be also sharing this with the ASM mayors and having discussions with Montreal, so we can push this up the chain and hopefully get some changes in actual effect. So all in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much. I think it's an important resolution to pass, and I appreciate all the work done for that. On to Public Works, 15A, awarding of a contract for tree maintenance. Councillor Benizri.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Est résolu que le conseil municipal de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc octroie par la présente un contrat à entrepreneur paysagiste Strathmore 1997 limité pour des services d'entretien des arbres pour une période de 6 mois pour un montant maximal estimé de 92 844 $ plus les taxes applicables. Que le certificat du trésorier numéro 26-0060 a été émis le 2 avril 2026 par le trésorier de la ville attestant de la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses décrites.
Merci, conseiller Benizri, secondé par le conseiller Sebin. Tous en faveur? Passé à l'unanimité, merci beaucoup. Alors le 15B a été reporté, so we're deferring item 15B. Moving on to 17A, the renewal of a partnership agreement between the Cumming Center and the City of Côte Saint-Luc. Councillor Schuster.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Je m'excuse, une seule. Merci beaucoup. Oui. C'est juste en fait de. Ok, très bien. Okay. Thank you for that. Parfait. Merci beaucoup. Ok, alors là, on repasse encore à Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby approves the renewal of the partnership between the city and the center, referring to the Cumming Center, and acknowledges the undertakings for both parties to fulfill outlined in the renewal agreement, that the renewal agreement attached forms an integral part thereof, that the city's general counsel be and is hereby authorized to sign the aforementioned renewal agreement on the city's behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. Second, Councillor Azarad. Any
Just
questions?
a brief explanation that this is the Cumming Center satellite campus in the ACC, which offers respite for caregivers of seniors.
Thank you very much. And now going to a vote. All in favor? And unanimously passed. It's a great agreement, and I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship with the Cumming Center. On to urban planning, awarding of a contract for professional services of the modernization of the traffic lights a great upcoming project. Councillor Kujawski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby declares Artilia Canada Inc.'s bid non-conforming, therefore this bid is rejected, that the City Council awards a contract to Stantec Expert Conseil Limited for professional services regarding the modernization of the traffic lights for an amount of $124,927.34 plus applicable taxes, that furthermore the City may consider an amount of 15% for any potential contingencies if required, that shall first be approved according to the City's procedures, that the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw 2660, that Treasurer Certificate number 26-0062 dated April 8th, 2026, has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses, and that the Director of Urban Development is hereby appointed to proceed with the evaluation of Stantec Expert Conseil Limited's performance within this tendered contract.
Thank you, Councillor Kujawski. Seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
That's super exciting. Something we've been trying to get off the ground for some time, in just making our traffic lights smarter, and it'll keep traffic flowing better. It'll keep pedestrians flowing better. I think particularly about the intersection of Côte Saint-Luc Westminster and the famous 35-second freeze. Maybe we can say those are things of the past. I don't know if you want to speak to it.
It's using AI systems. It's, like you said, it's going to analyze the flow of traffic, analyze what's coming, and we're going to have reduced downtimes sitting at a green light, or sitting at a red light rather, when there's no one coming in the other directions. And when our seniors need a little bit of that extra time to cross, it'll allow them those moments to get across safely. Moving, all in favor?
I should just say, I am in favor. I should just say that this does not include Côte Saint-Luc Westminster.
Yeah, we're not touching the timing of Côte Saint-Luc Westminster.
Have the amazing results. Of course, we'll roll it.
We'll see. But for now, Côte Saint-Luc Westminster, we're keeping it as is because I know that's a touchy subject. So
unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Moving on to 18B, approval of change orders for the renovation of the changing rooms at the Parkhaven Pool. Councillor Sabag.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Entendu que la ville de Côte Saint-Luc a lancé un appel d'offres pour le réaménagement des vestiaires de la piscine Parkhaven sous le numéro C2725C et octroyer le contrat à Piché Construction, le plus bas soumissionnaire conforme pour le montant de 754 790 000 $, plus les taxes applicables. Entendu que plusieurs autres changements au montant de 245 393 $ et 43 sous, plus les taxes applicables pour les éléments imprévus du projet ont été nécessaires afin d'exécuter les travaux.
Merci, conseiller Sebag. Secondé par le conseiller Benizri.
J'ai fait l'entendu que plutôt que la résolution. Que le conseil municipal de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc, par la présente, approuve les ordres de changement pour les travaux additionnels réalisés dans le cadre du contrat numéro C2725C pour le réaménagement des vestiaires de la piscine Parkhaven, autorise le paiement d'un montant de 245 393 $ et 43 sous, plus les taxes applicables à Piché Construction, que les dépenses décrites sont financées et à même du règlement emprunt numéro 2608, le certificat du trésorier 250128 et 250065 ont été émis par le trésorier de la ville le 16 septembre 2025 et le 2 avril 2026, respectivement, attestant à la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses décrites.
Merci, conseiller Sebag. Alors, encore une fois, conseiller Benizri, secondé. Tous en faveur? Merci beaucoup. Alors, on va avoir des belles salles de change à la piscine, les vestiaires, merci, à la piscine municipale. Moving on to 18C, awarding of contract for installation of conduits and wiring by Hydro-Québec. Councillor Erdling.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby approves and ratifies the contract with Hydro-Québec for the installation of conduits and wiring on various streets in District 7 for a total amount of $91,705.66 plus applicable taxes, that the described expenses shall be financed from bylaw number 2646, and that Treasurer Certificate number 26-0064, dated April 2nd, 2026, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Fabian. Any comments?
So just a brief background. One of the things the city has been doing over the last few years is renewing or replacing the underground conduits for our street lights and the wiring as well. We just did, for example, a big project on Cavendish. So this was done on Redwood, Sabin, and sections of Holland. It was done by Hydro-Quebec, and we actually, it was about a third of the price doing it with Hydro versus an outside contractor, and the reason was they were already doing significant work in the area, so once they were there, it was much simpler. It'll ensure our streetlights last a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdley. All in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much. And now awarding the contract for sidewalk construction. Councillor Azarad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract for sidewalk reconstruction and repairs to Ramco Construction Inc. for a total amount of $665,950 plus applicable taxes. As furthermore, the city may consider an amount of 10% from any potential contingencies, if required, that shall first be approved according to the city's procedures. That an additional amount of $10,000 plus applicable taxes shall be allocated for potential repairs of the private portions of sidewalks as needed. That the described expenses shall be financed as follows: $732,545 from loan bylaw number 2658 for the public portions of sidewalks, $10,000 from the city's operational budget for the private portions of sidewalks. That the awarding of the contract shall be subject to the approval of the above-mentioned loan bylaw by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc Treasurer has issued Treasurer's Certificate 26-0063 on April 13, 2026, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above-described expenses. That the Director of Urban Development is hereby appointed to proceed with the evaluation of Ramco Construction Inc.'s performance within this tendered contract.
Thank you, Councillor Azarad, and seconded by Councillor Bag. Any comments?
Basically, we're going to be doing more sidewalks than we've done in previous years.
And much needed. Councillor Johnson.
I'll be quick. Just to mention those who are listening online, our wonderful engineering staff always sets aside some money for sections of sidewalk that residents flag for us before we do batch 2 in August. So if you see a section of sidewalk that's really deteriorated, I suggest you either email our service at cotesaintluc.org email address, or go to engineering, and hopefully we'll have room to add it to the second batch of sidewalk reconstruction.
Thank you, Councillor Gurjewski. And all in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much. And on to urban development. So the final adoption resolution for specific construction of a childcare service nursery. Councillor Kujawski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just take the page
335.
Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council adopts, pursuant to bylaw number 2630, final resolution number, we do not have it yet, correct, to authorize a retail use, specifically for a daycare service on lot 1052573, located at 5750 Hudson Avenue, in the RU42 zone, all as presented in the document submitted by Aaron Freed, Agapi Alt Architects, SCNC, and Group SBSE, and subject to the conditions set out in Annex A, a copy of which is attached here too, to form an integral part of this resolution. That any other regulatory provision not incompatible with this resolution shall apply. The Council authorized the City Clerk to publish a public notice announcing that a register will be held for qualified voters.
Thank you, Councillor Kujawski, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any comments?
Well, any comments? I don't know if Metva Schechter wants to make any comments on this, but And when the time comes, obviously, we'll communicate to residents on the date of said register.
Thank you. And now moving on to bylaw tabling and a notice of motion and a tabling of draft bylaw for the building occupancy and maintenance bylaw. Conseiller Benizzi.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Je donne avis de motion que le projet de règlement 2688, à être intitulé Règlement relatif à l'occupation et à l'entretien des bâtiments de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc, sera présenté à une réunion subséquente pour adoption.
Merci, conseiller Benizzi. Et maintenant, le dépôt du draft.
Alors, je dépose le projet de règlement numéro 2688 à être intitulé Règlement relatif à l'occupation et l'entretien des bâtiments de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc.
Merci, conseiller Benizzi. Et là, on passe au 19.1 pour le PIA. Alors, 5515 Randall. Alors, on va mettre à l'écran les demandes d'architecturaux. Merci. Ok. Alors, je passe à conseiller Kujawski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the site planning and architectural integration program showing rear facade modifications on the existing semi-detached single-family dwelling on lot 1560611 and prepared by Aaron Architect for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of March 17, 2026, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councillor Kujawski, seconded by Councillor Fabian. Any comments?
No, pretty straightforward rear facade modifications, you can see. Nothing too real changing.
It's going to be pretty. Okay, thank you very much. All in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Now I just need a mover and a seconder to defer the next item, 19B, for 54, 55, 50, and 5478 Westminster. Councillor Schuster.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to defer item 19.1B.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Erdely. And so that item will be deferred to the next meeting. Item 19, two minor exemptions for 5515, the same address above. Councillor Kujawski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw number 2632, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5515 Randall, lot 1560611, be and is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow the conversion of an interior parking space to another purpose and to provide 0 interior parking spaces instead of a minimum of 1 interior parking space for a dwelling unit having an area less than 1,800 square feet. Whole, notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw number 2217, Article 721A, and Article 724.
Thank you, Councillor Kujawski, seconded by Councillor Fabian. Any comments?
No, not
no
necessarily.
comments.
Same property as.
All in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much. And now moving on to 5604 Chamberlain, Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw number 2632, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5604 Chamberlain, lot 1054385, be and is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow the existing detached single-family dwelling built in 1963 under permit number 1963-02040 to maintain its current east lateral setback at a minimum of 1.95 meters instead of the minimum required lateral setback of 1.98 meters, and to maintain its current west lateral setback at a minimum of 1.93 meters instead of the minimum required lateral setback of 1.98 meters. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw number 2217, Annex B, Zone RU-29, and Article 4-4-2.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster, seconded by Councillor Benizri. Any question, any comments?
Essentially, we're keeping everything the same.
That much. Perfect. All in favor? Unanimously passed. And again, the same address as before. We're going to be deferring item 19.2. So Councillor Schuster.
I move to defer item 19.2C.
Thank you very much. And seconded by Councillor Erdely. So that item. So deferred to the.
For both?
For both, right.
Yes.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. All in favor? Yes. Oh, that wasn't, I apologize. So we are deferring item 19.2C, voted unanimously, to the meeting of May 11th. Thank you very much. All in favor? Unanimously passed to defer. And our second to last item is the stance on issues presented at the next agglomeration meeting. Councillor Sabay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be resolved that the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meetings to be held in May 2026 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomerations council meeting to be held in May 2026 based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Fabian. All in favor? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much. And now the last item is other business, human resources and the settlement of a dismissal. Councillor Asman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council will approve the settlement recommended by the City Legal Counsel with respect to the dismissal of employee 1035, that the council authorize the Director General and the city's legal counsel to take all necessary steps to formalize the approved settlement and to negotiate the terms of a written agreement. That the council authorize the Director General to sign any document related to this out-of-court settlement and to approve the resulting payment requisitions.
Thank you, Councillor Azrad, seconded by Councillor Fabian. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you very much. And all in favor? And unanimously passed. Thank you very much, which brings us to the second question period. Anything on tennis? Anything on tennis? Tennis, anybody? Nothing on...
Sorry, point of order, tennis is not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda. Okay. I don't know. All right, and so not having any questions in the second question period, I ask for a mover to end the meeting.
Oh, I have a varia. In my varia, I would like to wish Councillor Kajavsky a very happy birthday and to let you know there's no cake.
So moved, Mr. Mayor, so moved. So moved.
Right. So moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Sabag, and we call that an end of the night. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our VCOPs and our public security officers for attending. Thank you to staff.